All right, it is Monday. We've hit the home stretch here. One more week of the regular season for the big boys. Conference tournaments officially started last night. It is now March, and we're going to look to finish the season strong. Hopefully, we have a great March like we did a couple of years ago. But there's still some business to take care of in the regular season, and the ACC gets their final week underway tonight with a big matchup between Duke and Wake Forest. That's what we're going to talk about to start the show. And Duke is the best team in college basketball. I don't think they get enough credit because they find themselves in an ACC that's just down this year and void of like huge game after huge game. So, in my opinion, as insane as it sounds to say, with a team like Duke, who's number 2 in the country in the polls, they should probably be number 1. They're number 1 in a lot of the analytics. I think they've gone a little bit under the radar because of games like this, where they've got Wake Forest on their home floor, and it's a 20-point spread. They just aren't getting the big marquee games like the SEC and the Big 12. And I think, again, it's insane to think this because they continue to win. They continue to cover huge numbers, but the market still feels like they're getting a little undervalued. They are one of if you look at KenPom since its inception back in 1997, they have one of the highest ratings in the history of the site. I believe the highest since the 2015 Kentucky team, which was an incredible team over a decade or about a decade ago. So again, I think a lot of that is going unnoticed, and it's allowed Duke to just sort of be a machine against the number, even though they're still up against against or up in the top of all of the metrics. It's allowed them to just win by margin every single time. And again, I think that's probably going to happen again here. Even though you're probably now laying an inflated number, like I would argue that you've been laying an inflated number with Duke for weeks now. I don't think the market is pricing this team correctly. And you've even started to see this come back a little bit. Opened at 20.5, I believe, down to 19.5 some places. That I disagree with that move. If anything, that move should be going in the other direction. And if you're gonna if the market's gonna bet this down, the only way that you can go is to play, in my opinion, is to play back against that and lay it with Duke. Now, I think it's false to like Wake Forest. Yes, this is a big game for Wake Forest, but I think that's a little bit overblown. The big game for Wake Forest is Saturday at home against Georgia Tech. Why? Because they're probably not going to win this game. I can almost guarantee you Wake Forest is not going into Cameron Indoor and winning this game. And if they don't win this game, and there's zero reason that they need to try to battle to stay in the game. If I'm Wake Forest and I find myself down 12, down 15 with 8 minutes to go, all those starters are coming out because Saturday's game is so much more important. If you're Wake and you win on Saturday, you're 13-7 in conference. You're probably in the NCAA tournament. Cannot afford to have any injuries. Cannot afford anything to go wrong that would compromise Saturday's game against Georgia Tech. So again, I look at this Duke team last 6 games. These are the margins of victory: 21, 36, 18, which was Virginia. That's actually a bigger blowout than you can tell by that score because Virginia obviously plays a low possession game. Still 18 on the road. 43, 37, 35. This is not Duke playing the Citadel, right? This isn't non-conference play. Those are ACC opponents and Illinois. And those are the margins of victory for Duke the last 6 games. They have the top offensive rating in the country. They're a top 5 defense. It hasn't mattered that Shire has played more of its bench guys. There's virtually zero drop off in quality. Again, the way I kind of see this game is Duke, if they build a lead and they get it to 12, 13, 14, I just can't see Wake Forest running their starters out there in the final 5 minutes of a game that they've already lost, final 8 minutes of a game that they've already lost, knowing how big this game is for them coming up this weekend. So I think once again, it's going to be Duke by 20 plus. And after the move, if you get to 20, it's a win here because this is currently 19.5. So my lean here is Duke. Don't know if I could stomach that as a client play. I might need a couple more points on that number to make it a client play, but anything under 20, it has to be Duke or pass. Right now at WagerTalk, we still have a great special. It's it's the rest of college basketball season through March Madness, through one shining moment on Championship Monday for under $5 a day. With conference tournament starting, it's all day action. It's as good of a special as you can find on the site. That's up on my page, wt.buzz/AT. And all handicappers that do college basketball have that offer up on their page. So if it's not me you're looking for, check out another one of these great handicappers and take advantage of that special, or you can use it a couple times. I don't believe there's any limit to how many times you can take advantage of that deal. And one other thing I'll promote here, I haven't locked anything in for Monday yet, but On the Clock is back today. I was in Florida last week, didn't do the show last week while I was traveling, but I'm back. I'm going to do it every day from now till the end of the season, or till March Madness winds down. And we're going to focus on post-season basketball. So On the Clock is going to be pretty much exclusively conference tournaments, and then into the postseason, NCAA tournament, NIT, and some of the smaller competitions starting today with Atlantic Sun, and then we'll look ahead at some of the conference tournaments that start tomorrow, the Sun Belt, the Patriot League, and the Horizon. So keep a lookout for that. That is going to be up this afternoon on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. And we're going to talk about one more. We're going to head out west, 11 p.m., a true degenerate special, as Drew Martin Betts would love to call these games. And we've got the Big Sky getting some deserved attention tonight in a standalone West Coast 11 p.m. tip between Eastern Washington and the team that will likely at least be co-champs in this league, the Montana Grizzlies, out in Missoula, Montana tonight. So let's just start the handicap here by talking about the situation that Montana comes into and why I think it lends itself to, maybe even adding another point to the number for Montana. So this game gets flexed to the 11 p.m. window to be on national TV. What that means is they'll know the result of Northern Colorado before this, or right around as this game is tipping off. So Northern Colorado plays a road game tonight. If they win, Montana would need to win to force to be co-champions of the Big Sky. But that game for Northern Colorado is not a gimme. And if Northern Colorado loses, then Montana, right around tip-off, will know that all they need to do is beat Eastern Washington to win the Big Sky outright, which would be a pretty huge accomplishment for this Grizzlies team. I think, anyone that is tuned into Big Sky basketball would agree that Northern Colorado was the team to beat. Like that was the team to beat in this league this year. And no matter what happens in that game earlier, a win here means that Montana cannot be worse than co-champs in the Big Sky. So as far as this game is considered, let's just talk about Montana briefly before we get into the matchup. Travis DeCuire, 11th season as head coach of the Grizzlies. Earlier this year, he was on social media, offering to buy students beer to get out and come support the team, come to games. And it's worked. Like, I love seeing coaches do stuff like that, especially guys like DeCuire's been there for 11 years. Like he doesn't need to win anyone over at this point. But he implored the fan base to get involved, come get out to games. It helps when you're winning games, 14-3 in conference, which is what Montana comes in here. And now the attendance has really jumped from about 2,000 per game to 3,000 per game at Dahlberg Arena. And I think you'll see a crowd of at least 3,000. And, look at that. They're 14-1 at home this year. So Montana's been awesome. I expect a great atmosphere for this game, especially with it being on national TV. And they get an Eastern Washington team that just feels like they're ready to focus on the Big Sky tournament. Dan Monson, first-year coach at Eastern Washington, of course, he's been around forever. Brought Gonzaga up to prominence before leaving for Minnesota. And then the last 17 years at Long Beach State, of course, famously fired last year prior to the Big West Conference tournament, and then goes out and wins the tournament and takes his team to the NCAA tournament. He's in almost a total rebuild here in Eastern Washington, and the wheels have kind of fallen off for the Eagles a little bit down the stretch. Like I said, 4 straight losses, haven't been very competitive. Now they have to go on the road in a game that they probably don't think they have much of a chance to win. And I see them from a matchup standpoint at a very big disadvantage. And I wouldn't be surprised if Eastern Washington sort of mails it in to an extent, especially if they get down here, knowing that the more important game and the more important spot for them is going to be next week at the Big Sky tournament. Now, as far as the matchup is concerned, the problem with Eastern Washington, they just don't have a ton of talent, and it's really defensive talent. They've got a couple guys that can score, but they a lot of their scoring comes from their guards. So really not much post sort of presence inside for this team, and a very poor defensive team outside the top 300 in just about every analytical every analytic site pretty much has Eastern Washington outside the top 300 defensively, and that is going to be an issue, a big time issue here. This Montana team is third nationally, 49.7% from the field, scoring at will, and I believe they dropped 92 in an 11-point win on the road against Eastern Washington in the first meeting. So I just don't see where the stops are going to come from for this Eastern Washington team. And then again, you get in the second half, you're on the road, big crowd again, big crowd at Montana, a team that will be celebrating if they're in the lead, will be celebrating at worst a split of the Big Sky regular season title. It's totally a scenario that sets up for a team to pull away and win by double digits. So Montana -9.5 is my free pick here. A little bit of chalk on Monday, but you got two teams, in my opinion, in Duke and Montana that should slam their opposition. And so do what you will with that. Duke -19.5, Montana -9.5. Couple of free plays for Monday. And head on over to my page at WagerTalk, wt.buzz/AT. Take advantage of that special, and we'll see you back here in a couple of hours for On the Clock, where we're going to be talking conference tournaments every day of March, every day of the next couple weeks. Like and subscribe to the WagerTalk YouTube channel, and we will see you guys back here in the morning.